Hello, gorgeous. So great to see you here. Today, I'm going to do a quick roundup of 14 personal development books that I highly recommend. You know that saying, you are what you eat? Well, I believe you are what you read, because what you feed your mind is so important to your outlook on life, your belief system, your self-awareness, your success, and even your overall happiness. Why? Because the solution to every one of our problems begins with self-awareness, if you think about it. If you're new here, I'm Rena Hedeman. I'm a certified career and life coach, and this is Thrive After 45, where we level up in mindset, body, and love. Welcome to yet another personal growth book video. I shared my list of favorite self-help books in 2020 and also back in 2013. And today I'm going to tell you about my latest recommendations. The first 6 are relatively new, published within the past couple of years. 5 are classics, some of my all-time favorites that have really changed my life in profound ways, and 3 more that I've got on deck. They're next on my list to read, and I'm so excited to dive into them. Why do I love personal growth books so much? Well, it's not all I read, of course, but I do love self-development books because they encourage introspection, self-awareness, and, they help you expand and grow mentally, emotionally, spiritually. If we want our life to change for the better in any way, then we have to change. And it's one thing to be able to identify your own shortcomings, but for most of us, it's pretty challenging to actually make the changes that will help us move forward. So in this video, I'm going to share some of my favorite new books, which have helped me along my journey to self-actualization and reaching my true potential. Am I there yet? Absolutely not. Of course not. I'm a work in progress, just like you, just like everyone. But I have read a ton of personal growth books, and they've helped me immensely to find my purpose, to define my path in life, so to speak, to help me be successful in the areas that really matter to me. And they keep me inspired and motivated and, continuing to grow and move forward and become the best version of myself. Okay, so before we get started, I'd like to give a polite reminder. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment in the comment section below with your thoughts and any other book recommendations that you might have. I'd love to hear about them. And if you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, I do hope you'll click that subscribe button and the little notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Okay, we're going to be talking about some truly inspiring books, and we've got a lot to unpack here, so let's get going. Okay, first on my list of favorite recently published personal development books, although actually these are in no particular order. The Magic of Surrender, Finding the Courage to Let Go by Kurt Blackson, which came out last year. I just read this book last week, and I already cannot wait to read his next book, You Are the One. When you feel stuck, maybe you're trying to find answers to a big question you're facing, or perhaps you're working really hard toward a goal, but no matter how hard you try, you just can't quite get there. Or you feel like you've had just one tough experience after another, and the struggles just seem non-stop. I don't know, like maybe if you've had an illness or a death in the family, or you or someone close to you has lost their job, or they're struggling with mental health issues and you don't know how to help, or maybe you're having marriage problems and you don't know what to do. Let's face it, we all go through some really challenging times periodically. But even if you're not facing any tough times right now, you should definitely read this book. I just finished it and I absolutely loved it. Read it in 2 days. Not because I feel like I'm necessarily struggling right now, as much as I'm really intrigued with the idea of surrender and how that opens up so much in our life that we didn't see clearly before. The Magic of Surrender, it's about letting go of the need to be so tightly in control. You know what I mean? I don't think we even realize we're trying to be so in control most of the time. But most of us are in fact pretty attached to what we think our life is supposed to look like, or at least what we think we want it to look like. This book is about how loosening our grip on that attachment is extremely powerful in helping us attain whatever it is we're seeking. The author, Kurt Blackson, shows us through many fascinating and moving personal stories that surrender, it's not passive. It's not giving up. It's strong, it's courageous. It's about tapping into your intuition and trusting it to help guide you and move you forward. I think it's a beautiful, poignant, very empowering reminder that your greatest power to have, do, or be anything in life is totally within you when you learn to surrender even just a little bit. I highly recommend this book. It will truly change the way you think about and approach your own life experiences. Another fabulous book is The Way of Integrity: Finding the Path to Your True Self by Martha Beck. I first heard of Martha Beck back in 2003 after my newborn baby girl passed away shortly after she was born. A good friend of mine gave me a copy of her first book. It's called Expecting Adam, or it's one of her first books. That's Martha Beck's own personal story of her own pregnancy with her son Adam and what happened during and after his birth. I'm not going to spoil it by giving anything away, but that's when I knew Martha Beck was a truly special soul, because that book was extremely healing and very helpful for me. Since then, she's written a whole bunch of books, the most recent being The Way of Integrity, which just came out last year. And it's actually Oprah's book club pick for this month, right now. It's not easy to summarize this book, but basically it's about how to find your true self, your true integrity, by learning to read your internal signals and recognize what you actually really desire and yearn for deep down, versus what our culture makes you think you want. I think it's really well written, like all of Martha Beck's books, and it's excellent food for thought. I got a ton out of it. This takes me to book number 3, which is similar in that the author teaches us how to dive deep and discover our greatest gifts within. This book is called Untamed: Stop Pleasing and Start Living by Glennon Doyle. It came out in 2020, and it's both a very personal memoir and a motivating wake-up call. Glennon Doyle says, "The braver we are, the luckier we get." And in the book, she shows us how to be brave by trusting ourselves enough to set boundaries, make peace with our bodies, honoring our anger and heartbreak, and unleashing our wildest, truest instincts. She herself describes the book as the story of how one woman learned that a responsible mother is not one who slowly dies for her children, but one who shows them how to fully live. I love that. And apparently, so did singer Adele. After she finished reading the book, Adele gave it a huge shout out on Instagram saying, "If you're ready, this book will shake your brain and make your soul scream. I am so ready for myself after reading this book. It's as if I just flew into my body for the very first time." And she goes on and on. Now, if those sound great, but you're looking for something maybe a little lighter, another phenomenal book by another phenomenal female author, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone: A Therapist, Her Therapist, and Our Lives Revealed by Lori Gottlieb. I loved this book. It made me laugh, it made me cry. It's very well written and so easy to read because Lori Gottlieb writes as if she's your best friend, and she's telling you all her secrets in her life, plus her clients' personal stories, her own personal stories, including her insecurities and hang-ups, all of which make her incredibly human and relatable. She and I actually went to the same college, and we overlapped a couple of years, and I so wish I had known her. If you've always wondered what it would be like to be a therapist, or if you've ever wondered about stuff in your own life related to career, relationships, self-doubt, choices, midlife, kids, and the list goes on, right? You should definitely read Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. It's poignant, profound, funny, a really, really great book. Number 5 on my list of newish self-growth books is Atomic Habits: An Easy and Proven Way to Build Good Habits and Break Bad Ones by James Clear. You probably already know about this book because it actually isn't that new. It came out in 2018 and it's been a huge bestseller ever since. And matter of fact, it's number 1 on the New York Times bestseller list right now as I speak. The only reason I didn't feature it on my book video in 2020 is because I hadn't read it yet at that point. So in that video, I mentioned instead The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, which is also a fantastic book. I recommend both. Atomic Habits is very powerful because I think James Clear, I love the way he gives us very practical strategies, and he gives a system that teaches us exactly how to form good habits, how to break bad ones. And he teaches us how to learn the tiny behaviors that will lead to big results. Not only is this book very informative and really inspiring, it's also super entertaining because he sprinkles in true stories throughout. The part I think I appreciated the most about it was the part about how to overcome a lack of motivation and willpower. Yeah, I think we all have problems with that sometimes. And how to get back on track when you fall off course, something I've actually been able to put to use successfully in my own life. Matter of fact, just last week, I did a video, if you haven't seen it yet, on how I get back on track after I've let myself fall through the cracks. No, just kidding. After letting myself go. Most of the time, our habits, both good and bad, are habits because of what's going on up here in our mind. So an excellent book that dives into that in a super interesting way is Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty, which came out in 2020. I read this last year after hearing Jay speak at a conference I attended. Actually, I listened to the audio version because I loved the sound of his voice. Oh, and by the way, I should tell you, I don't always read books. I often listen to the audio version, especially when the author narrates it himself or herself, because I literally feel like they're talking to me personally. You know what I mean? It's like they're sitting there telling me their stories and sharing their fabulous insights. One of my favorite things in the world is taking my dogs out for a long walk and listening to a fantastic book. Anyway, back to Think Like a Monk. It's a very inspiring and empowering book. Jay Shetty used to be a monk in India, and he shares what he learned in those 3 years. And he teaches us, both from ancient wisdom and his own experiences, how to overcome negative thoughts and habits, how to access the calm and purpose within. And realize our inner power and fullest potential. It's not all theoretical abstractions though. No, he takes these somewhat, elusive sounding ideas and gives us concrete ideas and exercises we can do ourselves to reduce stress, improve relationships, and access our gifts within to create a life of meaning and purpose, which is, I think, what we're all looking for. Okay, now I want to quickly bring out some of my old favorites. 5 books that even if you've read them already, deserve a second or even third read. And then after that, I'm going to finish by sharing 4 recent releases that are currently on my bedside table, waiting for me to devour them. I can't wait. Can you guess what they might be? What's on your bedside table? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments. To be honest, I have so many old favorites, way too many to mention here. I have shelf upon shelf of works by more of my favorite authors, such as Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Marianne Williamson, Dan Millman, Eckhart Tolle, Byron Katie, Deepak Chopra, Louise Hay, Gary Zukov, Brian Tracy, Stephen Covey, Brené Brown, and oh my gosh, there are so many others I didn't mention that are so worth reading. Tell me some of your favorite authors. I've also got dozens more on Audible on my phone. So these next ones that I'm about to mention, it's not that they're better than all those others you just saw. I just kind of randomly picked 5 that have profoundly changed my life and my way of thinking in some way. Although honestly, I could say that about so many of these books here. The Power of Now, The Magic of Thinking Big, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, A Return to Love, The Power of Intention. Such great classics. And pretty much any book by Brené Brown. As I said, too many to talk about right now. Speaking of Brené Brown, I recently reread one of her earlier books, The Gifts of Imperfection. Let go of who you think you're supposed to be and embrace who you are. It was written back in 2010, but it's one of those books that's gonna transform people for generations to come, in my opinion. One thing that makes this book so great, in addition to Brené's writing style, interesting stories, and self-deprecating humor, I love that, are the 10 guideposts she gives for wholehearted living. Through these guideposts that she gives us, she helps us recognize our own unattainable and usually sabotaging expectations that kind of hurt us and hold us back. And she also shows us how everyday practices can positively change our lives and families. Definitely an excellent book to read and reread. The next oldie but goodie on my list is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. This, I think, has got to be one of my all-time favorite books ever. It was written back in 1988. I read it in 2006, and I'm still telling everyone I know to read it. It's basically a parable, a story of a shepherd boy who goes on a quest to find his personal legend, so to speak. He runs into many omens and obstacles along the way, of course, each which teach him very meaningful but distinct lessons. It's almost impossible to describe what this book is about without sounding kind of corny or cliche, but trust me, it is anything but. You can't help but be captivated by its magic and moved by the life-changing journey in so many senses of that word. It's a quick and easy read, so read it and then tell me what you think. Another oldie but goodie is The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman, which came out in 1992. It's about the different ways that individuals feel loved and why it's important to not only know your own love language, but also, and maybe more importantly, your partner's. Because what makes you feel loved by someone might be very different from what makes him or her feel loved. Chapman wrote the book because in his practice as a marriage counselor, he realized that most couples who came to him with relationship problems all suffered from pretty much the same issue. Each partner felt that they were being loving toward the other, yet the other just didn't really feel it. Or sometimes they even felt the opposite, like they were being treated actually badly. So the relationship was really suffering. So in the book, he explains the 5 love languages and how understanding each language and knowing which love language you speak, as well as which one your partner speaks, will help keep your relationship fresh and growing, even amongst, all the demands and stresses that we all have of everyday life. Personally, I believe that there were probably more than just 5 love languages, but even though this book sort of generalizes and simplifies things down to 5, it's a good start to get you thinking about how what makes you feel happy and appreciated and loved might be very different from what makes someone else feel happy, appreciated, and loved. Whether that's your spouse or significant other, or maybe your son or daughter, or a close friend, or even your work colleague. Oh, and just a little addendum I should probably mention, a little heads up. Author Gary Chapman says a few things that to me seem pretty old school. Like, to be honest, I was thinking, okay, it's clear you grew up in the 1950s. But they're pretty mild and mostly toward the end of the book. So if you just focus on the chapters which go into each of the 5 love languages, which make this book really worth reading, I think you'll get a lot out of it. Okay. I've mentioned this next author in past videos because his books are truly transformative, in my opinion, and that is Steven Pressfield. And this time, I'm highlighting The War of Art, published in 2002. This was written for writers, but it's an excellent read for any creative, or actually anyone at all who experiences battles within themselves to get the important stuff done. The inner battles of resistance that we all face, like laziness, inertia, rationalization, and God knows, procrastination. This book is a lot of tough love, to be honest, but Pressfield puts it in a way that makes you don't feel at all beaten up or shamed into taking action to do what you know needs to be done. Rather, you feel inspired and even excited to go do it. He's sort of like an army general and your best friend at the same time, who knows you've got what it takes. He basically kind of believes in you more than you believe in you. So he wants to see you do the work. Matter of fact, that's the title of another one of his books that I love, Do the Work, which I mentioned in my book video back in 2020. Read both if you want to get inspired and motivated to get off your butt and do what you know you need to do. And number 5 on my list of old-time favorites is The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I've gifted this book to all my nieces and nephews, my godsons, goddaughters, my own daughters, and my sisters, because it's just such a classic. It's such a fantastic book that everyone should read. It was written back in 1997, became a #1 bestseller in 2000. It was on the New York Times Bestseller list for more than 10 years. It's basically a life manifesto. It offers a code of conduct based on ancient Toltec wisdom. And that's kind of all I'm going to say, because it's beautiful in its simplicity, yet it's very powerful in its depth. It's a short and quick read. You should definitely read it if you haven't already. I promise you'll gain a lot from it. Okay, those are the books I've read that I'm recommending this year, and here are 3 more that I've not yet read, but I can't wait to. First, Atlas of the Heart by Brené Brown. It's her latest book. Have you read it yet? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what you thought of it. I'm really excited to read this because, first of all, I'm a huge Brené Brown fan. I think she's a gifted writer, brilliantly insightful, yet humble, funny, and uplifting. Atlas of the Heart is not only her most recent book, but also yet another #1 New York Times bestseller. She's had a lot of those. Okay, another book that I can't wait to read is Happiness Becomes You, A Guide to Changing Your Life for Good by Tina Turner. I bought this book because I'm a huge Tina Turner fan. Not only Tina the singer and entertainer, but also Tina the human being. Her life story, you have to admit, is so unbelievably inspiring, and how she tells her story in her previous books is so empowering too. This book is more about, I think, her philosophy, which is derived primarily from Buddhism. She converted to Buddhism later in life, how her inner beliefs and mindset gave her the strength to endure the hardships she went through and, realize all she did, realize her dreams. Oh, Tina, I am so excited to read this. Okay, so the third book I've got waiting for me on my bedside table, How to Do the Work. Recognize your patterns, heal from your past, and create yourself. Ooh, I cannot wait to dive into this one. It's by Dr. Nicole LePera. I've been following her on social media for a while. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. She's a holistic psychologist who takes psychotherapy to a totally new level by addressing the connection between the mind, the body, and the soul. And she also incorporates overall lifestyle and wellness practices so people can actually heal themselves psychologically. The book's description reads, "Nothing short of a paradigm shift. This is a celebration of empowerment that will forever change the way we approach mental wellness and self-care." Hallelujah. Okay, gorgeous ones, there you go. Those are my personal growth book recommendations for 2022. I hope you enjoyed hearing about them. If you have any recommendations of your own favorite books in the field of personal development, books that have really inspired you or helped you in some way, please, as I've mentioned before, please feel free to share those down in the comments below. I really enjoy hearing what books other people are reading. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a big thumbs up. That really helps me out. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please make sure you subscribe below and click that bell for notifications so you don't miss any upcoming videos. I create these videos for free to help people who want to make their world a better place. Just my small way of giving back. So your support through comments, likes, and shares really means so much to me. Thank you. Oh, and one last thing I really want you to know. No matter where you are on life's journey, you are so beautiful inside and out. I hope you know that. You are worthy of so much love and respect, not just from others, but from yourself as well. So remember that. Be kind to yourself. Keep moving forward, take it one day at a time, and never, ever, ever give up. Remember, take great care of your gorgeous self because you deserve it and you are definitely so worth it.